Okay, this is my coaching A1 resub, NEV 16004067. Okay, roles of a football coach. A role model is one of them. So a role model is an individual looked at by others for inspiration and knowledge. For example, the players of Manchester United would do this with Alex Ferguson on a game day or in training. So for example, if Manchester United are 1-0 down at half time, they'll go into the changing room, sit in front of Ferguson, and they'll look to him for inspiration to get them back out onto the pitch and to win the game. Ferguson would use his knowledge and his skills of the game to help the players, and use his knowledge and experiences to aid the performances of his players by improving their motivation or technical skills. Due to this, the players will begin to trust him and become more inspired and listen to what he has to say. Okay, the responsibilities of a football coach. Any coach will have specific responsibilities and the legal obligations to provide their players with a safe and secure environment to be in, whether this is to play, train, or even just to live in. This will be very important for Alex Ferguson because of his players being so valuable to him. He must make sure that they are safe at all times. He would do this by trying to reduce any factors, as many factors as he can, which would cause potential risk to the players of Manchester United. These could include wet surfaces at training or indoor training, faulty equipment in the gym or out on the grass, incorrect technique, and even muscle imbalances. So for example, before a training session, it's Ferguson's responsibility to make sure all the equipment is working correctly and is safe to use. This means that when the players come out to train, they know they'll be safe when using the equipment, which will reduce their risk of injury. Okay, skills of a football coach. Communication skills. This is one of the most important skills required to coach participants effectively. It will allow Ferguson to effectively exchange information with his team, allowing him to help his team improve their performances by telling them how to improve on things that he's seen from the sideline. This will be important before, during and after a game. For example, if Manchester United are drawing 2-2 and they need to win the game to go top of the league, throughout the half, Ferguson will be making notes on what to change to increase the team's performances. So all he has to do at half-time is feed this back to them. He wouldn't be able to do this if he had poor communication skills, because he wouldn't be able to exchange the information he knows with his team. Which basically means he'd be able to spot what they need to do well, but he wouldn't be able to get his point across easily to them so that they understand it and can put it into their own game. Okay, roles of a rugby coach. Educator. An educator is someone who is able to aid people's understanding in a certain topic. In this case, it's Eddie Jones who will aid the England rugby players' knowledge before, during and after games. For example, in a training session, he will notice if a player is confused or struggling or not able to perform the task or drills he's expecting them to do. Once he's noticed this as his role of an educator, he must approach them and help them with their technique. He could do this by saying not to go in with his head, for example, in tackling. So he could tell him to go in with his shoulder rather than his head, because if he goes in with his head, it will cause injury. By explaining this to the player, it will be opening up their knowledge and understanding of why not to do it, making them less likely to do it in a game, which will improve their technique and help protect themselves and those around them in the game, which will therefore increase their overall performance. Okay, the responsibilities of a rugby coach. They must be able to deal with abuse, especially in the elite levels. Abuse is much more popular towards the players and even their coaches and management. This can include physical abuse, which is bruising, cuts and burns, or sexual abuse or emotional abuse. Eddie will be responsible for making sure he deals with any of these well, and his players or other staff deal with it well as well. He can do this by providing them with support and advice, which he has found over the years will help overcome it. This is a key responsibility for Eddie to have, as the England rugby players will experience abuse over their career, so there's not really any way of being able to avoid it. So being able to deal with it well and keep their mental strength high is a very key responsibility of him and a key skill of the players. This will be able to keep their mind on the game and not everything else that's going on, making sure their performance can be the best it can be. Skills of a rugby coach. Organisation. To be organised, Eddie must be able to prepare himself and all equipment ready for the sessions to begin. This will allow it to run smoothly, allowing the players to get as much as they can from the sessions, leading to a better individual or team performance. Eddie must be able to organise for the number of players coming to the session, the equipment, the facilities before and after. For example, before an England training session, Eddie must have the organisation skills to have all the equipment out and set up before the players even get out onto the pitch. He must also have a plan of how he's going to do it, also all the sessions he's going to go through from start to finish. This will allow the players to concentrate on their training and not have to set any of it up themselves. It will run smoothly from drill to drill, so the whole session will be full of drills for them to do, meaning they can get as much from the trainer as they can. This will overall improve the rate in which the players improve at, and this will improve their performances as individuals and as a team. Okay, roles of a hockey coach. They must be a motivator. Being a motivator is extremely important for Meg at a non-elite level. This is because the players don't have as many reasons to be motivated as elite athletes because, for example, it's not their full-time job, so they wouldn't have money as a motivator, so they rely on other aspects to keep them motivated. A motivator is someone who can provide a stable environment to learn in a positive and safe atmosphere. They are reliable for providing praise and positive feedback. Due to the players not being as experienced in the sport, they may find it hard to keep motivated when things aren't going well. So having Meg to keep praising them and providing them with positive feedback, then they will find it much easier to keep motivated, and this will lead to an increase in performance. Okay, responsibilities of a hockey coach. They must provide equal opportunities for everyone. So being the coach, Meg is responsible for providing the players of Team BTC Hockey with equal opportunities. This means that she must give all the players the same chance to improve and the same opportunity to play. This will prevent any players from feeling left out or not improving at the same rate as others as a rest due to them not being able to give the chance to improve. Meg must not discriminate against their age, weight, race, sexuality, gender, religion and or their socio-economic status. This will prevent any of the players feeling left out, not liked, and will make them feel much more equal in the team and much more comfortable in the team. This will therefore improve their confidence as they'll know they can express themselves more, knowing they're equal to everyone else in the team. So they'll put more effort in. So the whole team will be putting more effort in. So they'll know they're not going to get punished for making a mistake. They'll be treated the same as everyone else who makes a mistake. Okay, skills of a hockey coach, evaluating. At a non-elite level, Meg must be able to evaluate the players' performances well. This is a very key skill in increasing the performances of your players and the team. This will be where she'll be able to look at the players' performance and be able to pick it apart, looking at what they do well and what they need to improve. This will also be able to work out ways of them improving their poorer aspects of their game. So for example, if one of the players' movement off the ball isn't very good, then she'll be able to notice that and then she'll be able to feed it back to them and then tell them ways of improving that. So for example, if a Team BTC Hockey lost a game 2-0, Meg will be able to watch the game back and look at where the team played well and where they played poor. She will then explain to them where they played well and also explain to them where they played poor and how to improve these poorer aspects. She may also look at the other team's performance and she'll be able to see where they played well and then try and bring that into her own team's game for the next one so they play better in the next game. Okay, roles of a basketball coach. They must be innovative. This is an individual who is the purpose of their team winning due to their new ideas and practices they come up with. They're also very good at coming up with new strategies and encouraging the team to believe in themselves and perform better. They inspire their players to perform better and even by more creatively by coming up with their own ideas and techniques to help train the players better and adapt their sessions to match the individual needs of the players. This will be good for Joe Mills at a non-elite level because the abilities of his players will differ greatly within the team. So we'll need to be able to be innovative and come up with new ways to adapt his sessions to allow all players to gain more from them. Learning leading to more individual improvements, causing an overall increase in, for example, the Team BTC basketball team. Responsibilities for a basketball coach. He's responsible for all those under 18 years old. So Joe Mills, being the coach Team BTC basketball team, is responsible for all players, especially those under 18. This means if anything happens to them under 18, he is responsible to deal with it in an appropriate way. So this will require him doing multiple risk assessments, for example, if they were going on an away day. So if anything happened, he'd be able to cover himself saying that he's done a risk assessment on it. So this will include him filling out and receiving a DBS form, whilst protecting the players from any of the following: sexual, mental, physical or emotional abuse, whether this is at home, school or anywhere else. I mean, he can't really protect them from it, but if a player, for example, who's only 14 came to training one time with bruises all over their arms and their face, then he would have a legal obligation to either speak to the parents, the friends, the police, the social workers, anyone who might be able to give him an idea if anything's going on within the home. He will then be able to find an appropriate way of dealing with it. Skills of a basketball coach, they must be able to analyse well. So this is where Joe Mills will have a clear idea of what he wants his team to be, of where he wants his team to be and how he wants them to play. So allow him to watch Team BTC basketball games and pick at it, looking at what's good and what's bad. He will then try and use the positives to his advantage and work on them and use them more, and then we use the negatives to try and improve them to reach where he wants them to be. It will be Joe Mills' job to make good tactical judgments of how to change the games, how to change the team's tactics in order to beat their opponents and because of a better performance of the team. He must be able to observe games going on and make these judgments during the game. He also must be able to watch the other team's performances and take good things from those games and use them into his own to try and make their team much more stronger and more successful. Okay, techniques. There are three main techniques in which a coach will use with the overall goal of trying to improve their players' individual performances. These three techniques are goal setting, fitness testing and effective demonstration, each of which have different ways of improving the players' performances. Firstly, goal setting. Goal setting is carried out by a coach setting smart targets for the players to complete. This includes the target being specific, measurable, achievable, realistic and time-bound. If all criteria is met, then the target will be classed as smart. For it to be as successful as possible, both the player and the coach must agree that the target meets all the criteria. This will enable the changes of the target being met to go up, as the player will agree that they can and will want to meet it. These targets should be set at the beginning of a season as a goal for the player to achieve, usually by the end of the season. Throughout the season, the player should be monitored in order to know how much progress they're making, if they're even making any. So if they're not making any progress, then they may need to change the target to make it a bit easier. But if they're making too much progress and they're set to be reaching the goal very soon, then they might need to change it to make it harder for them to reach. Okay, positives. The main positive of goal setting is that it can provide the performer with motivation, which they can then use to help them improve and try harder in games. It will provide them with motivation because a smart target always has a deadline. So by giving the player a deadline, you're giving them a time in which they need to complete the goal by. This will be setting a challenge for the player to complete, which, if they're a competitive person, which most likely they will be, will bring out their competitive side, allowing them to try much harder to complete/reach the goal, because most competitive people love to do a challenge and they love the feeling when they achieve it. Another positive could be that it allows the performer to have great focus on improving one specific skill, because when you set a smart target, you only tend to set one and maybe two. This will be because the player won't have much to work on, so they'll only be concentrating on this one goal, meaning that they can put all their work and effort into it, which means the rate in which they're going to improve at is going to be much higher. Okay, negatives. Negative of a smart target is that if the deadline is not met, then this can massively demotivate the athlete, as they may feel like, what's the point anymore if they're still not reaching their targets? They may start thinking they're not good enough, and this will prevent them from wanting to try and complete any more in the future. If they become demotivated, again, this could stop them from making any future improvements, as they won't have the willpower to keep putting in 100% effort. This means that they won't make improvements at the same rate. That's if they even make any improvements after. So another negative is that there is a lot of steps required to follow in order to meet these targets. Normally a player will be given a length of the season to complete it, meaning that the improvements won't be that small. They'll tend to be quite big steps. So they will have a lot of steps to follow during the season. So even if one of these steps aren't met, this could stop the player from being able to achieve the goal. This would lead to the players again becoming demotivated to complete any more targets, slowing down the improvement process. Also, due to many steps being completed, these goals mean that the players will be most likely needing assistance of the coach all the way through the season, which may not be available to them, as the coach will have many more players to be concentrating on as well, so they won't be able to spend so much time on one individual player.